Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about creation of phylacteries. Now, what is a phylactery? A phylactery is something that is considered to be a magical totem, okay? Something that is associated with shamanism, necromancy, witchcraft. It is things that is across the board in both occultism, witchcraft, and sorcery in general. Now, there are three types of phylacteries that most people are aware of, but really doesn't know much about. Okay. Now, when you ask somebody about a phylactery, a lot of times you hear the term necklace or a ring. Okay. You go into pagan and Wiccan traditions and you hear the term talisman or amulet. But what if I told you that that buck does not stop there? What if I told you that earth-based phylacteries can be made by a number of different things? The metals of the earth, silver for an example, aluminum, things like gold. How about natural gems such as crystals, rubies? Okay, these are things that could be added to a ring for the experienced practitioner that really has a know-how when it comes to alchemical practices. But when it comes to clay-based material, let's go back to the old ways, the ways of the hexa. The strega, the eshi, and the aji, not just the necromancer. Amulets are things that is known that is hung, things that you carry with you. Okay, a necklace is just one little term, one little item. I'm going to go into my grimoire right here. A talisman, for an example, it is an item that you place on a wall. It is with a depiction of a magical letter or alphabet, an image such as the green emerald, for an example. Think of the demonic squares that you find in grimoire traditions. That's basically the image that you want to see here. Talisium, Talism, or Talsam. Okay, Talism or Talsam. Okay, are two of the very well known names and spellings of a talisman. And this is found in Arabic, by the way, not just the Greek, not just other aspects of it. Okay. Now, what's interesting here is a talisman's energy does not just enhance, but it also supports your magical practices. This is why it's hung on the walls. This is why it's placed in a location of magical practice, such as your temple, your altar room. If you're out in the woods or at a cemetery, let's say a mausoleum, or let's say an abandoned building, such as a abandoned church, for an example, a place of worship, This is a great place to set up seals and element, and things that deal with magical practice. In this case, it is something that is very good. Okay. Now, a lot of people get a talisman mixed up with an amulet. They think it's the same damn thing. Guess what? It's not. And Greek. Okay. We're talking Hamelet, Amuletum, Hemela, the Chemia, the Gemia, or the Quemia rather, because it's Quemia. And I'm probably going to butcher this because it's Greek, and Greek was not one of the languages that I learned. And it's Perima, Perium, Periama. It's Periamma. Okay. Now, what's interesting here is that this means to carry. Okay. This means to carry, meaning it also means to hang or to carry. It's also a protection. Okay. And the word protection is what connects a talisman and an amulet. And I think that that is where a lot of people get it mixed up. Okay. A lot of people get these two mixed up because they both protect you. Okay. Now, dark totems, on the other hand, a dark totem is derived from Native American traditions, but it is also found in Jewish and Latin traditions, not just Middle Eastern. And what's interesting is the totemism is a belief in which a human has a mystical kinship. You notice I use that term kinship, mystical kinship with a deity. In necromancy, you have the spirit box or the spirit bottle. In Palo Mayambi, you have the Nganga, okay, or the Prenda, the spirit house. In the pedestal in Haitian Voodoo, each room is designed for a particular loa, and the altar itself is a shrine to that loa. Satanism and demonolatry. Look at Baphomet X, for an example. You can look his channel up right here on YouTube. This man, I am envious of. The meticulous detail of his setups, of his altars. Excuse me. Meticulous setups. Every single deity from the Goetic spirits that he has worked with, magnificent. The way his altar illuminates the setup from the seal itself, again, magical alphabet or letter or image in the background, to the setup of the altar, the shrine, the dark totem that is designed specifically for that spirit, the offering bowls, the burn pot, the sacral. Excuse me. Oh, I think I'm coming down with a little bit of a chest cold. To the very details of the triangle of evocation. the triangle of evocation. The entire setup is designed for demonic kinship, to commune with deitas. A dark totem is the very embodiment of a symbolic nature. You have statues, skulls, cauldrons, boxes, specially designed to work with a particular entity or a group of entities. The main purpose of a totem is the constant influx of power. Every rite and every ritual that you do with a dark totem doesn't just increase that magical energy, that current, that supernatural current of that essence. If you're into necromancy, then the Da'ath current is being constantly stored and built up into that particular statue, that totem. And it becomes an object of dark power, of death itself, to be used either in curses, hexes, other types of rites such as domination rites, hexcraft, let's say, for an example, lust or compassion rites. It deals with a lot of different rites. And if you're into Brujeria, well, guess what? You got 5 different colored magics that you can employ just through one of these items that is considered to be spiritual totems. And what's interesting is I took note in the Ojib Wa, the totem, as it's referred to, is a word in the Oto Timan, which means brother or sister, aka kinship. Basically, the term totem is to be or mean traits within a religious tradition. The grammar root OTO signifies a blood religion ship. Okay, a blood relationship, basically. Whereas totem in English means guardian spirit. Okay, think of it as an unholy demon, a guardian demon. Turk Suzij in the demonic Bible speaks of this. When you do a blood pact, you're aligning yourself with the forces of darkness or the forces of light. But when you work with a particular deity, you are aligning yourself with that entity. This is why the seal of that entity is a very powerful item. In some cases, knowing the spirit's name, you hold power over that spirit. And what's interesting is in the African Caribbean traditions, an orisha is given to you when you are initiated as a palero, a priest within Pedro Mayambi, or that of Santeria. Okay? And you are given a cauldron, a nandango, or prenda. Okay? You're given all the tools that you will need to have that relationship. So when you are initiated into a current, this is what's given to you. But a lot of people, a lot of practitioners don't go beyond. They don't practice it. They don't create them. When I first got into Pedro Mayambi over a decade ago, my teacher didn't give me anything. I had to actually make it myself because he gave me the instruction on how to do it. Pedro Mayambi means people, religion of the sticks, spirits of the sticks. And here it is. This is what I wanted to read to you on this. A Methodist missionary by the name of Peter Jones referred to totems as being the great spirit within Native American traditions, as being translated into two diems, Toodaims, as it's spelled, totems, within objects in the Ojibwa clans. Most totems are in forms of animals, and this goes all the way back to the Hexa, 6th century BC. That's before Christ, by the way, for those of you who do not know. Or natural objects, such as clay, natural rings, stones, things like gold or silver. And here it also goes into natural objects within religious, social structures, and or personalized religious acts. We see this within two aspects, from symbolism and used by under spirit under symbolism, companions, relative, protector, progenitor, helper, and a scribe. Under those who use them, lineages such as voodoo, santeria, or pedomayambi, because a lot of times your children, your family lineage plays into this. Tribal, okay? Tribal clans such as the voodoo, for an example. You got different aspects of voodoo, from Ghana to Ethiopian to Malawi. Okay, not just say the Dominican Republic or that of Haitian voodoo, or let's say, for example, the more modern version of voodoo right here in the States from New Orleans voodoo. Okay, these are tribal, these are clan based. The Moabites, or not sure how to pronounce this, it's Moieties, Moabites, I'm guessing, and Phylacteries, Phuatries. Okay, a prime example of this is described in details within the Necronomicon by Simon. And if you actually get into the very beginning of Simon's Necronomicon, you have a sailor who washes up on a beach. He goes into the woods, goes up on a mountain, believes himself to be there all by himself. All by himself. All of a sudden, he comes across a pillar, an obelisk, a little stone that has this weird writing on it. And all of a sudden, the priesthood in black robes comes walking up, chanting, praying, worshiping Cthulhu. This is known as the priesthood of Cthulhu. And here it is. As they're worshiping, they're chanting, speaking in an unknown language. This statue, this pillar, rises from the ground and becomes an obelisk. And when they realize they weren't alone, the priesthood vanishes and all that's left is robes. And the sailor runs for his life, but then realizes he's not being followed. But there you go. Prime example of tribal. Even if you get into Satanism, Anton Szandor LaVey in the Satanic Bible describes a meta tribe. A meta tribe of devil worshippers. Think about that for just a minute. Tribal, a meta tribe, a lost tribe, a meta tribe. The skull or statue within modern practices have the same idea within totem, totemism today. It is believed that when you hold that human skull up and you stare into those empty abyssal eyes, that the spirits of the dead or that of whoever you're contacting comes through that. It is a portal into the afterworlds. It is a portal into other dimensions, other planes of existence. Statues are worshipped like that of Pazuzu, the Mesopotamian deity, Lord of the Grasshoppers, not to be mistaken for Beelzebub, Lord of the Flies. Isis, Bastet, Lord Anubis, the jackal-headed dog in Egyptian mythology. Guardian of the crossroads, guardian of the cemetery, protector of the grave, the embalmer. He who holds the heart and the feather and weighs your iniquity to determine if you go to heaven or hell. The statue. And these reside in your personal temples, on your personal altars. That is what's there today. And it's interesting because if people actually got into these, the amulet, the talisman, the dark totems, and you started creating them, okay? A lot of times when you get underneath certain web pages and certain practitioners, they're selling you rings that they've thrown together or amulets such as Baphomet or the inverted pentagram, the seal of Lucifer, or maybe the more modern one of Bulg, for an example. Um, the deities of the Goetia, oils, and other things. But how many people actually do their homework into phylacteries in general? When you take a ring, a ring, just a ring with magical symbols, such as the triangle of evocation, the black star, even the swastika, if you will, whatever, or even a skull. It is a representation of death if you're a necromancer. It is the representation of what and who you are worshiping and aligning yourself with. So you take that clay, you mold it, you shape it, you make it into, say, for an example, let's say an ashtray, or let's say an urn or a vase. You can either put it in a kiln or you can use the oven based clay that you can just place in the oven of your stove. You let it cool off, you bring it out, you paint it, you put the gloss and everything on it, you place the symbols, the seals of who you're working with, be it your patron or patroness. It could even be a soul phylactery. That's right, I said soul phylactery. Think of in Slavic witchcraft, there's an entity known as Kakashi, the immortal. It is said that he was a necromancer. Okay, and this mythology goes all the way back to the 6th, 7th century, and Russian mythology and folklore, much like Baba Yaga. Okay, and what's interesting here is if you look at the golden hen, the soul being placed in a phylactery, or you know in a hen, in a goat, or within whatever, and placed in a distant island. Okay, it's called threading the needle, so to speak. You're connecting that item, that mystical and magical item, with your blood. That's right, your blood, your personal blood. You're mixing it in with ash. You're mixing it in with the earth. A lot of times, practitioners would leave it under the moon they would bury it in a graveyard from full moon to full moon, a full month before taking it out to let it charge, placing it on your altar. This becomes a dark totem. It becomes a totem of great and immense power. Connor Kendall and Dante Abiel describes a ritual item such as a athame or a skull becoming emitted with a green type aura. This is a blessing from the spirits that they place on these items. Personally, in my own personal experience, certain times of the year is great for making amulets, talismans, and dark totems. In fact, I'm actually making one for right now for a soul phylactery. A soul phylactery. And it helps with your transcendence. It helps with your evolution. And what's interesting here is that you're tying it in with your own blood. You're bleeding on the altar. And I've mentioned this story in the past of how I was in my altar room and I petitioned the demons and said, "Hey, what else can I do? How can I evolve? How can I become more powerful within my sorcery?" Behind my left ear, I heard bleed on the altar. They say you don't want to look, but guess what? You always look. And it's true, because how can you not? And it takes a moment to realize you're the only one in that apartment or in that house, that temple. You're tying yourself to that amulet, that talisman. And if you're a necromancer, you're tying it to the grave. You're tying it to death itself. You can look up Slavic witchcraft and get into Kakashi's mythology. Stories, the folklore behind him is spectacular. You can find it on YouTube. You can go into mythology and Google and look it up. You can go to your local library and look up Slavic mythology and books. It's amazing how much universities and public libraries have knowledge on this stuff. Okay. I have a lot of pages written just about those three, so I'm not going to get into all of them because I don't want to bore you. Plus, I'm not going to do the work for you. I want you to get off your butts and go do it. Okay? Do the research, get in there. Some of the things I would recommend if you want to start making them and experimenting for yourselves within this area, look up talismans, mystical and magical talismans, how to create them. Grimoire traditions such as the Clavicle of Solomon, the Heptameron. Let's go with the Black Raven, also known as the Threefold Coercion of Hell. Go into the Sacred Magic of Abramelin the Mage. Go into the Magus by Francis Barrett. Okay, there's a lot of these old grimoires over the last 1,000 years that speak upon this. Even the Black Pellet shows you about talismans, about amulets, the magical letters, the magical, um, you know, images for certain things, for bringing a lover to you. You know, even if it's for a one night stand, to bringing financial profit to you, to bring power over spirits. Imagine that just the black pellet alone would benefit you. But I would recommend these others as well. Look at let's go with the Munich manuscripts, 13th century, Book of Necromantic Experimentations. Magnificent. Peterson. I just got a new book by him. I already own the Book of Black Magic by him. The Secrets of Solomon by him, and the Grimorium Vernum by him. But now I've got a fourth book by him, and it's based off the Heptameron. It's his translation of it, and I started reading it about the day before yesterday when I got it. And what's interesting about his interpretation is even the depictions of the zodiacs, astronomy, numerology, even the spirits' names, the seal can be placed in your altar where you place these items. In fact, you can actually place these on a phylactery, but you want to consecrate it. You want to bind yourself to it. They don't just protect, they enhance, they empower your magic. But you're the one that's got to go out and do the homework. You're the one that's got to do the work. I'm just giving you a little know how. A little know how. Always back up what you preach and always make yourself available to the public. You are responsible for the things that you do and say. All right? Have a good one.